Welcome to Accountants Law Pod, where accounting professionals and law firms converge. Hosted by Linda Artisani, Sarah Prevost, and Stephen Libhart.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Accountants Law Pod podcast. And this week, we're going to talk about conferences, in particular, Scaling New Heights, which is going to be coming up really, really quick from when this show drops. And what we're really going to talk about is not just that particular conference, but some tips if you are going on what you need to do to get ready for it. And also some experiences we've had along the way, going to different conferences or even speaking. And speaking of speaking, we have an opportunity to talk to Sarah, who's going to tell us about the course she's going to be teaching at Scaling, which I think is an amazing course.
Thank you. It's definitely, I'm excited about it. I've been doing quite a bit of research too on different ways to help present it so it's attainable and can, make it easy for people to deal with. But the topic is how to handle client pushback, which it's the number one topic that we always have to deal with. Is we ask each other. Steve has come to us and we have gone to Steve of how to handle this pushback on this one item, or how to handle this moment and how to navigate it with the objective of a win-win. So
do you think it's because we work with attorneys that we need to handle pushback more than regular people, bookkeepers? And Steve's nodding. I know this is a podcast, but Steve is nodding. So
yeah.
I think we could all nod our heads. I think that's.
I think so.
What do you think about that, Steve?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're dealing with people who are, I call them uber professional. They have paid a bundle of money to go to school, to become attorneys. They're trained to negotiate, to challenge, to ask questions. They're a whole different breed of people just by the type of work that they do. And so the dynamics of dealing with them, I think this is awesome that you're going to be talking about this at Scaling New Heights.
Sarah's the master at handling.
She is. She totally is.
She's very
good.
Well,
you guys have put me through the test in the law lab. And Steve used a real situation. I did not know that. We did what did we do? Like a role play kind of thing?
A little backstory on that. One of the weeks we were trying to figure out what to do in the law lab. And I said, Sarah did such a great job with a client of ours in particular, that she just kind of squashed it down and I think the person was having a bad day, but they came at us and Sarah just diffused the whole situation. And I said, this is going to make a great topic in the law lab, because not just me, but Nicole was also sitting there we were wow, watching and learning, right? And I said, Sarah, you're so good at this. We should teach this. So we did that, but we did a little role playing and nobody wanted to take the role of the attorney on, but Steve stepped up and tried to be a difficult attorney to see how Sarah would handle it. And he did a great job. And Sarah handled it like she always does. It was good.
Well, and to tack onto what you were saying a minute ago, Sarah, we've had behind the scenes conversations, the three of us, about particular difficult situations we've been in. Because, you reach that point where it's like, we're working remotely, we're not in an office somewhere, and sometimes you have to reach out to somebody else and say, hey, how would you handle this? I'm stuck, and it's like with our staff, we're the end of the line. We're where the buck stops with our people, with our businesses. If somebody with the people on our team, if somebody is mean to them or gets them upset, I step right in. It's like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like even just this week, it's presented itself a few times with the emotional aspect of it. That's not an easy thing, myself included. Your tone of voice, the way that you handle yourself can creep up. But I feel like there's little reminders and good little tips that we could do. And I did not realize, I will say this, I did not realize that was a gift or a craft. It comes from such a different space for me. So I appreciate being acknowledged for it, but I had no idea. And so it's kind of nice to kind of learn a new skill that you didn't know you had and help others, because it's so intuitive and natural. So
you know what it is, Sarah, and I think it's why you and I connect so well. We both came from the hotel business.
I was just going to say that.
We came from the hospitality business, and that's how we were trained. The guest is always right. Even when they're wrong, there are, what's the word I'm looking for? There are appropriate ways
to let them know they're wrong.
right, to handle those situations. And then I worked for an airline for a while. Same thing. It was like,
Yeah.
people are just keyed up when they're traveling. And, we kind of run into that psychology with attorneys as well, because we have to take their attorney hat off and put their business hat on and go, okay, you're in a safe space. Let's chill down. Let's calm down. Let's get through this. It's safe to know your numbers.
I think you're onto something there, where the moment of saying the client's always right, there's a caveat to it.
Yeah.
It's their perception of them being right. You don't really challenge that perception of that. You just basically step through a space of how to navigate to where it's not about being right or wrong. It's just navigating to how to get to move to the path forward, or agree to disagree and say, you know what, we're not going to agree on this. So we either table it, or we move to a different area, or we decide that this is not going to work. And we've done that before.
But
Or it's okay to say to them, I just don't understand what
that's
you're trying
most of it, right? The communication,
Right.
understanding
The
what they're
listening.
trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But also, I think, Sarah, one of the things you taught me, hopefully this isn't spilling the beans on your course, but a lot of times, I think it wasn't just me writing back to them in an email, because things can be taken out of context.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you were telling me not to use, first of all, stop apologizing. And then
Mhm.
second of all, take the word you out of your language, because the word you it just it has a kind of a feeling to it that it's like you're accusing. So I don't want to give away the store, because I want everybody to come to this course. Believe me, you will walk out learning something on this course. And Sarah, when is it? Tuesday?
It's Tuesday. Yeah. So, and Linda, you give me an idea really quick before I move on it, is maybe we should, I think you and I might want to collaborate on something that we could give tips and tricks on.
Away.
So those that attend get access to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to have.
Because I forget that this is the thing. So I know, Tiara, you're in the background, but if that's something we can work on together, the three of us.
It means you're doing it, Tiara, just so you know.
So, but Tuesday, thank you for the thumbs up. Tuesday, I believe it's a 5 or a 5:30 that I'm on, and I am definitely looking forward to it. Let me just take a quick
And scaling, I've been to scaling now, and I've seen people, because they give out pins. So every time you go to Scaling New Heights conference, and I always say Scaling New Heights, I mean, comparing it, I've only other one was going to QuickBooks Connect. So QuickBooks Connect is a big party. It's razzle dazzle, sparkly, it's classy. It's energized. It's really glitzy, and Scaling's more subdued. And I think my biggest revelation of the people who go to Scaling was when Misty Mejia, our mentor, she got up on stage and she gave a beautiful keynote, and she had everybody stand up that was a pro advisor. And then she had everybody sit down. Then she had everybody stand up that was an advanced pro advisor. And there was so many of us in the room. That's your crowd that's there. So you've got people who are really there to learn. So even if you're just starting out, you still can go. There's plenty of courses to take. But there's a lot of colleagues there, and there's a lot of connections, which is why we go to conferences. It's not just about learning from the speakers. It's also collaborating and getting to be with your peers. And you will learn. I think that's the thing I learned so much from even QuickBooks Connect way back in my first conference, was that I learned more sitting at the dining room table at lunch than I did in a lot of the sessions. I learned a lot in the sessions, but I made these lifelong friendships with people that I think are invaluable. And I think that's the reason why you want to foot out the money. And it's not cheap. I mean, scaling's like $7.95 or something to go. And then you got to buy the hotel and the travel. It's not an inexpensive, but it's an investment in you. And if you want to invest in your professional career, and I've always said, like, going to QuickBooks Connect in 2018 was my first one, I think. It was 2016.
Because you and I.
2016, I went alone. I was terrified. I never traveled alone. I flew from Florida to California by myself. I filled my day with sessions from the minute I was running from one to the other. I was exhausted. I'm on East Coast brain. I went to bed at 6:30. I didn't network. I didn't do any of the fun things. And it was not what you should do. If you go to a conference, pack sneakers or sensible shoes, layer your clothes, because it tends to be, you're going to be in St. Louis, it's going to be hot. but you're going to be in a place that's probably freezing. So you want to layer up, because one year we went to a conference and it wasn't freezing. But I think the one thing I think about, my takeaway with scaling was Joe Woodard kept that conference going during COVID. And we met, and it was in Florida. And I remember being so isolated and locked up and making the decision to take the chance to go and going to that conference. And they did such a great job with the protocol of making sure everybody was safe. And they did, it was a very small conference that year, but that got me into a better place inside of COVID, because COVID was so awful because you were isolated. And that conference meant so much to me just for that reason. And I won't forget that. And I've learned a lot at the conferences, and now I speak at them. This year I'm a student, which I think is kind of fun. And I get to heckle Sarah from the front row. But I don't know. I'd love to hear your take. Steve, I know you go to a lot of conferences. And what do you think about them?
I know. I'd love to hear it from you, Steve.
Well, I haven't been to a lot of accounting conferences in the last several years, just because I've been growing this company, this firm that I have here. I think that they're very, very important for connecting with the people that you know, that we all know through the internet, obviously, your tribe, so to speak. Mm-hmm. There's always something to learn. Don't go to a conference just for the party. Go to the conference to nurture your mind and your soul in what you're doing. I agree with you, Linda. Don't try to go to every single session, because you'll just burn out. Because in the sessions, there's so much information thrown at you in such a short amount of time. But it's a great time, like the Scaling New Heights that you guys are going to. I love that Sarah is speaking. I just think that's awesome. And, for the legal field, Amanda Aguilar is going to be there. She does a great presentation. It looks like there's a really great lineup for that conference. Yeah. So, the techs, we all have that squirrel syndrome in our businesses. The tech stack stuff that's at all these conferences is amazing. To just go through the vendor hall and see what's new and exciting out there and what they have to offer. There's always some tidbit. Drink lots of water, like Linda said, wear comfortable shoes, make sure you're getting your rest and your nutrition, and go with an open mind and just absorb as much information as you can.
In planning too, I mean, I'm in a good, I gotta say, I'm looking at the lineup, and some of my buddies are in here. Like Cole Davis has got a good session going at the same time as me, but there's other ones that I'm really interested in looking into and planning. Like for Linda and I, being firm owners like yourself, Steve, and our thought process is where are the best opportunities for us to take courses that make a huge impact possibly in our ability to reframe, grow, and level up in our own selves. Sometimes we divide and conquer. Sometimes we wish we don't, because it's fun to share in this space. When you're solo and doing it on your own, it feels so overwhelming too. I remember that feeling, and I still feel that way. I'm like, God, there's so many good
I have to
ones.
keep Sarah out of the vendor section.
I know. I know.
Software. Oh, I talked to this one. You have to come talk to them. And then we kind of race around there, but it's fun.
It is fun. The lunch.
You two were at a conference. I'm sorry to interrupt. You were at a conference somewhere this last year, and you posted videos on Facebook of all of your adventures. And I was like, oh, I want to be there so bad, because look at all the stuff they're learning and the fun that they're having. And
which one was that?
Might have been Connect, Sarah. I know we ran around somewhere and did that.
Oh man, we were right.
And you were doing videos in the vendor hall. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, and it is nice to it's just nice to connect with people that are in the same profession, that might have the same questions. I have questions, learning from others. That's the engaging part of it.
Well, that gives you strength for your convictions in running your business. You're like, I'm not crazy. Somebody else has got this.
Somebody else is just as crazy. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, somebody else is just as crazy.
Validate you.
Yeah, I think that's why the three of us got together.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think, Linda, and I'm curious from your perspective, you mentioned that it's pretty nice. Like, I know I dragged you to this one, but I want you there with me, because so many things, obviously. But you said it's pretty nice to actually finally be a student again. So I'm wondering through that lens what that looks like for you.
I've looked at the sessions. I'm trying to pick and choose because I don't want to overfill my, I don't want to do what I did the first time I went to a conference. And I've been to, I've gone, there was years there where I went to Connect in San Jose. Then I flew off to Connect in Toronto and ran around like a nut. We did like sessions where we were running and interviewing people. And we did remember the app showdown, Sarah?
Yeah.
They used to have Connect had an app showdown, and we would run around and interview all the app vendors. And the thing we used to do is we used to ask like the story behind what made them create the app. And that was what made it fun. And then of course somebody would win the app showdown, which was fun. And then we did the 17 shirt challenge one time, which we ran around and because everybody was giving out t-shirts. So we just went from vendor to vendor. And we just kept putting shirts on. That's funny. It was very funny because by the end, hot with so many layers on, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And we ran, like we had, I don't know how we had to do it. I can't remember how he had it all set up. Matthew had it all set up where we went around to each one, but we did it really fast. So we actually had to like run with the camera and run with the shirts and put the shirt on and then get a quick thing on it. And it was fun. And the vendors at that point, they were bored because they sit in there all day long. So if you do go to a conference, stop in and see them and chat with them. Ask them their story. If you have an app, like say you go see Keeper, one of our dear, dear friends, talk to Ben and ask him, what made you start this journey and what's on the roadmap? It's kind of cool to know what's on the roadmap. We've got so many friends. We've had great connections with Reach Reporting. I'm trying to think of all the people we've met along the way that we've had some. We're going to meet the folks at Ignition when we go, and we're going to be hanging out with the guys from Coalbox.
Well,
so that'll make you jealous, Steve.
I think the thing that's interesting, Linda, and kind of what you're possibly leading to is when you're going through the vendor alley, and Steve, I know it's definitely fun, but it's also a great time to, if you're on the cusp of, like for us, we've been on the cusp for a certain type of internal workflow that we want. And maybe there's, a segment of apps that might fit that. And you have that opportunity to spend a little bit more time looking at a deeper dive demo than having, a separate time to do a bigger demo. Like you can actually spend that time right there if you allowed yourself that time. So and I believe a lot of the conferences they give us that moment where we get to go through it. Now it feels like a lot because it's a lot of people going through the vendor booths and stuff, but it is really nice. And then a lot of the people that are there are really, they're there for a reason because they understand, they know, or they have knowledge, or they once were us, and now they are part of the app, the app side of it. So anyways, I think that's where you're going with it, Linda, is like, you're kind of like, it's nice to make the friends, but it's also, it really deepens your relationship too. And it makes it really cool.
Gives you like, you get to meet and you put a face with the software. I've seen you.
Yes.
You go into like the Zero section and you go into where they have the Gusto payroll, and she's in there telling them what they need to fix and change in their software. And she's like, this is what you need to do. And they always listen to her. And from us working in the product, they want to hear from us because we're the ones using the product, and they want to know what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and what we think. And sometimes they'll actually get a pad and pen and write out, oh, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. Because they're just working at it from a different angle. And I think that's what makes those parts fun. And it's really worth your time to do. There's a reason why I think it's Intuit that always puts the vendors in the middle of where you have your lunch, right? They always have it there for breakfast and snacks, and they're right there. I don't know is that how Woodard does it? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, they have a lot of it.
They have a bigger section
outside the rooms too, and just in conferences in general. So Steve, I know that you said something I thought was kind of a good point to sort of discuss a little bit more on is, I know you've been busy building the business, and there's also that value. And that's the hard part, is like the expense and the time to go to conferences, because it does take us out. You have to be strategic, especially if a team, how many can go, how much time can you dedicate? The value of it. So then in my opinion, and I just am curious of this, it's like you want to make sure you're optimizing as best you can. I feel. Okay. Yeah. I'm curious because I know that you mentioned the comment about like, I've been working on the business, but how do you feel now? Like, as you're progressing, where do you see yourself in attendance probably in the next few years in conferences, like being selective, or how do you feel about it?
We definitely want to ramp that up, and I want to do conferences that are very effective for the people on the team,
Okay.
so that they're getting a lot of value out of it, and so that they're involved in the process of picking which conferences we go to, and
Oh,
so that I really want to make it so that it works for them.
okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense from knowing you, Steve. I think too, like, well, we're all going to connect together and it's going to be fun because we're really going to be really together. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That the part of that, like Sarah and I did last year, is we took our staff with us. So we had this big entourage of people, which was kind of fun. But what was invaluable for us was getting everybody together in the same place, in the same room, because we're all remote, we're everywhere. And none of us are even, most of us not even in the same state. So to get us all together. And I remember that last day, Sarah, when we were ready to leave and, exhausted, right? You're always exhausted after Connect. So make sure you pad off a day or two there at the end, that you take some time off because you will be tired and your head will be full. But I remember when we were all sitting with our luggage waiting to leave, and we're all like, oh, I don't want to, we just love being together so much that it was like, oh, this is sad. We don't want to leave each other because we were together and it was fun. And it was kind of like this kind of bittersweet when we all parted ways.
Not to mention, we needed to get a party bus just for the luggage, not for the people.
Well, we had all women. There were a lot of shoe bags in that pile of luggage.
It's like 22 or 24 bags of luggage for 7 people, I think.
7 people.
Yeah.
And I have a fun story from a conference I was at about 3 years ago. One of the people that really inspired me to go into the legal field was Erin Brockovich. And she was the keynote speaker at this convention I was at. And this lady sitting next to me knew that. And so she, behind the scenes, went to the organizer at the convention and said, Erin Brockovich is one of the people that Steve totally idolizes. He came and got me. His wife came and got me, took me backstage to the green room right before she spoke. I got to meet her, get my photo taken with her, all that sort of stuff. And then I got to sit at lunch with her that day and talk law firms and her history and all. And that just was so cool.
That is so cool. That's a special
Really
story.
And nothing that wouldn't have happened had I not gone to the conference. And here was another legal person and who was very successful. She still is. She still litigates, or she doesn't litigate, but she still is an advocate for water rights to this day.
Wow. Yeah, that's an incredible. I mean, I love stories like that. I think just also within our own profession, we have colleagues that we've looked up to and admired, and just being able to connect with them, approaching and thanking them. That's also really cool. I love that. I love to be like, thank you so much for all these tips.
Weird when you like, you do all these things on Facebook and stuff. And I can still remember the first time I went to a conference. It wasn't 2017, it was 2018. And I can remember it was kind of like we're walking down the hallway and somebody came up, oh my God, it's Linda. And, I'm like, I felt like a movie star at that point. It wasn't, but and it's just kind of funny, like, oh, I'm just me. But I did the same thing to Michelle Long. So and what goes around comes around, because I was like idolized her. So it was kind of like I made sure I saw her and found her the first conference I went to, because I wanted to go up and tell her, hey, I'm Linda. She probably didn't even know who I was at that time, but it was fun. And then also the first conference I ever went to, Sarah and I have been talking about it, and we realized we were probably sitting in the same row at the same session. We know we were. And we didn't know each other, but we were probably sitting next to each other in 2016 and just didn't know each other. It's kind of a weird story, but kind of cool that we just, that's how we probably first interacted with each other, didn't know. And that was at QuickBooks Connect.
And that's where I met a lot of my friends till today, like Nio and Shrell and Nicole. Like Nicole I had met before. And, just like these people that come up in your life that are, I feel like there's just, you text them, you talk to them, you're Facebook messaging them. And
them on Facebook or social media, but you really don't know them until you get to sit down with them and actually give them a hug. And it's a lot of hugging.
Yeah, there's a lot of celebration in that. So it is big kumbaya for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the important thing too is for those in your team that maybe can't make it to the conference.
Yeah.
Coming back with something for them not
Yes.
something tangible so much as something.
Yeah.
I learned this at the conference. This will address that very challenge that you were going through.
Mhm.
And, this is what I learned to help you. And, bring something back that makes a difference so they see the value in it.
Well, that's why I'm not allowed to do the apps anymore, Steve.
Well, there is that.
But I'm not alone. I see that you're the same way. Squirrel. No, it's so I definitely looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to reconnecting after and hearing how your trip went, Steve, because you're going to be on a trip.
Yeah.
Well, so coming up, we do have a few, I guess we should plug a few of the things that are coming up, but I have found an attorney/CPA.
That's awesome.
And this lady was so interesting. I'm going to the Airstream International Rally the same time you guys are at Scaling New Heights.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be 1,300 Airstreams there all together. And I told Linda and Sarah last week when we were recording a podcast, I said, my mission is to find an attorney that can practice out of their Airstream. And right after that meeting, I just went out to the group app for this big rally. And lo and behold, she's giving a presentation on tax advantages and things like that with RVs and all of that. So I reached out to her and we have her scheduled for a podcast. So her name is
That's
Susan Tucker,
great.
and we will be talking to her in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, she'll be a guest on one of our podcasts. I don't know when we'll drop that one, but we have that coming up.
We also have Chris Farrell from Licio coming
Our
up
dear
to
friend.
really kind of help us with this FTC. And
Yes.
and we also Theophan, who is amazing at the sales funnel especially for the legal space, the businesses, and just a great person to talk to, just business wise, business sense.
We're bringing in Paris Heinen, a wellness coach, in a few weeks to share with all of us ways to get out of our chairs, get off our butts, and exercise and drink water and eat right, because we get glued to these chairs all day long, and then we complain that our joints hurt. So we're going to be bringing her in.
Are we supposed to stand up right now? Is that what you're making?
Yeah.
You do.
Everybody, we're going to do some mantra things. Okay. So.
I know I referenced, and I didn't really say her name, but Misty Mejia will be joining us as well in the avenues of public speaking, theater, public speaking, all of these amazing pieces. And she's just, all of these guests, really, such a wonderful space to be able to interview them, get to know them more, even though we know some of them already, just getting to know them more and sharing their knowledge in areas that would benefit all of us. So I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that space. And so
if you're going to Scaling New Heights, make sure you find me and Sarah, and also go to Sarah's session, because you will not be disappointed. And also, if you want to subscribe, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to this podcast and our YouTube channel by searching Accountants Law Pod, or by following the links below in the show notes. If you have any questions or topic requests or guest suggestions, you can email us at info@accountantslawpod, or send us a message to the website, www.accountantslawpod.com. And if you want to join us in the Accountants Law Lab, so we're all members of the Accountants Law Lab. If you'd like to do that, you can visit us there at www.accountantslawlab.com. So that's Law Lab and Law Pod. Hopefully I said that loud enough so you could see it. It's also in the show notes if you want to follow along. And if you want to follow Steve in his Airstream, you can follow him in his adventures by following the podcast as well. So I hope everybody enjoyed. I hope this encourages you. I sat on the fence for a very long time, not going to conferences, wanting to, but not actually making the decision. I can remember sitting down saying, I'm going to do this. So I hope this encourages you. Scaling New Heights is a great one to start with. It's not as big, and it's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more cozy, and great sessions, great learning experience. So we hope we see you there. And on that note, we'll all see you on the next time we have a podcast, which is next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
bye.